I think we don't know who's going first or second yet. I think that will be a big factor. I think again, if you're Annie being able to build that early tempo, if we see something like a Palti Paro or a Traveling Merchant come down turn 1, we see the student for Ahri, as we discussed in the last matchup. Very, very strong opener. Let's see what Annie has to reply.
Most likely a Poro, but no, a Traveling Merchant of their own. So not too bad. Synergizes double the trouble with that Zone Warrens, discarding and drawing 2, but goes with this stacked deck for for 1. For some reason it was draw 3. I'm like, wait, it costs 3, but no, it costs 1 to look at the top 3. Pick one of them to draw in your hand. Such a good card to filter through cards nice and early as turn 1. So Annie, optimal plays so far in that turn 1. Now Ahri on her turn, able to get her Ravenbloom onto any of these. Most likely that Dreaming Tree, as you said before, with things like Discipline, that's a net 2 draw. Keeping that healthy hand size throughout the whole match is what Ahri tends to do, and it will be Ravenbloom into Dreaming Tree to get that one conquer point.
We see a reaction straight away. Interesting. He reacts with Ride the Wind.
Yeah.
You don't see that very often. I think that's one of the key things with Annie, which I really like, is the readying 2 runes. Sorry, it just constantly keeps you guessing, because it's not like, if you see an Ahri deck and they tap out for a turn, you're safe to really make a move. Whereas in this scenario, you're always going to have that runes available for things like Void Seekers, Hextech Rays, Fight or Flights, Gusts. So there's a lot of options that Annie will always have access to with that Legend ability, being able to just ready 2 runes, so you can really maximize your turns by fully tapping out without having to worry, and then capitalizing later.
Right.
Interesting, we see the Darius Cleave combo.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best cards in Fury, so I don't doubt she's playing more than 2, possibly the full set of Darius. I was just about to say, I like that aggressive play with the Ride to Win. Not only do you conquer on your opponent's turn, but then when you throw it back, you're getting the hold point. So Annie, very, very aggressive start, already up to 2 points, and it's just her second turn, which you don't see too often. 2 points on your second turn. Discards a Flight, most likely indicating that they have another one in their hand. Now 4 runes to work with. What can they possibly get? Okay, 4. Okay, there we go. Nice. Keeping it straightforward, which is a nice simple Kaiser, readying back 2 runes and passing it back to PewQ.
Yeah, I think, like I said, that was an awesome thing to spot there, being able to react to them taking over the Dreaming Tree by moving in the Merchant. Also, you then have the advantage that you move the Merchant twice, so you see they've now got 5 cards in trash already. This is just how aggressive the Annie deck can be. I mean, we're building up trash so quickly. It's very common to see this Vi get up to 17 to 20 might by herself for the big finishing combo. And I think the other thing to mention as well is with the Annie here, champion unit, you can bring that Ride the Wind back from the trash. I've fallen prey to that once or twice where I think, okay, they've used 2 Ride the Winds, they probably don't have the third one, and then late game they just go Annie into it, bring the Ride the Wind back, and suddenly they've got the combo anyway. So I think it's very helpful, and they're a lot less common to discard Vi's, but Annie's are quite happy to use a Ride the Wind or even discard it for Zon Warrens early on, because they know they have access to it again late game.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we'll keep an eye if they end up deploying that champion a little bit later on, but just looking through a bit more cards for this Ahri player, decides to go with the Watchful, just keeping it nice in that base and trying to keep control of both of these battlefields is the game plan. Having 3 runes at the ready, things like On Guard, things like Discipline, like we keep saying over and over for these Ahri players, making things a bit complicated for Annie, because you think it's simple, just send the Kaiser over to the Poro, over the Ravenbloom, but it's never as easy as it seems. But let's see what they have in mind. Plenty of runes to work with, nice evenly split down the middle, so goes for the more ambitious conquer, goes for the Ravenbloom, -1. It almost seems to me that they're trying to perhaps do something like a cleave play.
Yeah, we've seen them discard a cleave already, but you've got to assume, so I mean, this On Guard's a +3 for the student, and obviously draws the card as well, so it's a very scary position to be in now for the Kaiser. They have to assume with 3 runes up that there was some sort of answer that was going to come out. What are we going to see? Fight or Flight, very nice.
Very nice, just kind of baiting out one of the combat tricks from Ahri, saying, well, no matter how buffed up you get that Ravenbloom, but it gets defied. Ooh. Do they have a follow-up play to this defy? Something like we mentioned, the cleave bringing up to 6, or did they not bank on the defy?
Yeah, because you've also now got the student, because the student should be at 6, because obviously after the defy, but interesting, you ride the wind just to pull the Kaiser away and keep it alive.
Yeah, and you're forced to do it onto
you do
the
draw a card with
base.
ride the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you do draw a card. It's not the end of the world, and the Kaiser is ready, but that -1 will should go back to 4 now. But the problem is, even if you go in at the Paro, the Paro goes to 3 and Kaiser drops down to 3, so you end up just trading, which you don't really want to do. You want to be able to get that Conquer and then use that Conquer to draw a card. So very awkward scenario here for this Annie player, and this looks like it will be a falling star. Very good. So we're very tapped out on runes, down to 3, but it's a big gamble. But I assume we'll target the Poro here in this case. That way we can move Kaiser in and Conquer. And probably the Sentry. There we go. It does trigger the Sentry as well. That makes sense.
Does make sense. And gets that 1 draw, just keeping the hand size nice and healthy. But I'm wondering, no, never mind. Oh no, the Poro's gonna live and Kaiser's not gonna have enough, because I believe the Ahri ability reads for the turn, so the Kaiser's gonna be stuck at 3. And if you go to Conquer again, do you get the additional -1, bringing the Kaiser might down to 2? I believe it might work that way.
Yeah, I think the thing to take into account, the Poro has technically had 3 damage applied to it. That still doesn't really...
True.
Even if you move the Merchant in, the Poro then goes up to 5, and then yeah. So I think the Annie player has decided just to take the trade if they can get it, and just accept that they're going to trade out here. But that is a brutal. You see 3 runes up, you think they probably got a 2-cost spell and a 1-cost spell, but to have double on guard defy is really brutal for the Annie player. That is the kind of thing that just swings the tempo. And a deck like Annie, you see they've got 2 cards in hand, they've tapped down to 3 runes. It's going to be very difficult to come back from here in this scenario, because especially when the Ahri's certainly going to hold at least with the student. Potentially we're going to see the Poro trade out here. We are. Then we can move the Merchant in, discard both. Or we can do 1 at a time, but yeah, potentially cycle through 2 more cards. So it's going to be very interesting to see
enough, prioritizing saving the Traveling Merchant rather than the Kaiser, right? Because I guess they kind of both net draw 1, but Kaiser does have the 4 might, so I'm wondering if you should have just traded in with the Traveling Merchant first and then come up with the Kaiser. But what do you think about that play?
Yeah, I don't think that. I thought that myself. I think with the math, because the Poro would have gone up 1 might for the shield, and then the Merchant would have gone down with Ahri's ability to 1. So I think the way it would have worked is, even with the 3 damage on it, would have gone up to 2, and the Merchant goes down to 1, so it wouldn't have traded. So the only way to actually trade there properly is with the Kaiser. So it feels bad, but yeah, I think it wouldn't have traded properly if he'd done it the other way around.
Yeah, you're right, because I think with the shield it was plus, because they got +2 from on guard, +1 more, so it would have been 5 total might, right?
Yeah,
exactly. That's
so
what happened there. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, it would have been 5 with 3 damage. That's the only thing that's kind of hard to track in this game. I found is like knowing how much damage is on a unit, but yeah, essentially the Merchant wouldn't have traded properly, so it doesn't feel great for the Annie player, but it was the only way they could do it. But yeah, this first game is certainly looking like they're in a bit of a rough spot here.
Does get at least that hold point from the Zon Warren, so not too bad. They are currently in the lead. Actually, Ahri, did they get the 5th point? Was it on your screen? Mine's a little bit zoomed in. From the holder, they had 3.
Still. I've got them at 4.
4?
Yeah, I've got it currently as 4-4 on my screen.
There we go. All right, maybe another falling stars, it looks like. Who are you targeting? You have 3 options. Most likely thinking about that back line.
Student. I think you'd most likely go Student Poro here would be my best guess.
Okay.
I think those are two key units to take out. Oh, he does choose both in the base. Interesting.
I think he's worried about a potential spell getting played out from Ahri, bring that Raven Bloom out of the Falling Star range. And you don't have any follow-up plays because you have 3 Chaos runes. You can't really do too much. What are you even going to play out for 3? Can't even play out your champion. This is not looking too good for this Annie player.
It's not looking too hot at the moment. I imagine we'll probably, depending on what the hand is, we'll probably move the Merchant back to try and get a couple of draws. And we see another pump spell. I mean, we are only 15 cards into this Ahri deck, and we've seen 2 disciplines, 2 on guards, and a defy. It's been a very good selection of draws here for the Ahri player, and yeah, it's set up a rather brutal situation for Annie at the moment. So we'll bring the Merchant back. they have to discard and draw a card. Be interested to see what he gets rid of here.
Yeah, there's only 2 available options, so I think that was the
That's
third Kaiser, right?
Yes, yeah, he played 1, he's trashed 2. I think that's the correct decision. With the 2 falling stars, you're just too far behind on runes. You'll never be able to play it properly. So I don't think there's much to be done. But yeah, this is looking pretty rough at the moment, to say the least. So yeah, because the Ahri will hold to 5. He gets a free Conqueror of Warrens with the Poro, so he's going to be at 6. 1 rune off Time Warp. We're only at 9 this turn, so you're safe from a Time Warp win at least. But I do think it's going to take a lot. I think if the Ahri player can get the Vi Ride the Win combo next turn, they'll probably just have to go with it and just conquer both battlefields, score 2 points. But that does expend a lot of your capabilities for the turn. Because you're using your main win con there. If you recycle the trash, unless you recycle a certain amount, we've got 13 cards in trash. But yeah, we see here the Ahri player just using another super on his own unit to draw 2. The power of that Dreaming Tree, as we talked about already.
Yeah, so much draw. Is quite the opposite on the other side. Annie with a lonely 2 cards, but Ahri so much to work with. A total of 6 cards. Gonna be going with a Find Your... Oh no, that was a discard from the Zon Warren. So it ends up being with the net 6s still. Thinking about what to do on these doing on the follow-up play. She's looking very strong so far because there's not much you can do. As you mentioned, that Vi into the Ride the Win combo, but that's only going to bring Annie up to 6 total points. An interesting decision to deploy the Ahri onto base. Maybe just not really being 100% confident in which battlefield Tera's going to decide to go into. So a safer play. Know that 2 falling stars have already been played out. Very unlikely that another one, and besides Falling Stars, I don't think there's any other spells that target the base backline like Falling Stars do. Void Seeker can't, Hextech Ray can't, so I think that was still a safe play for Ahri.
Yeah, so I think that's a good call. I think, yeah, the plan will be if they hold either battlefield, then they can move Ahri in, and then obviously we're going to have 10 runes next turn, so he could be staring at that potential Time Warp to win the game. We see the Ahri player coming in with the cleave combo, so he'll draw another card because he cleaved on the battlefield, which is the correct sequencing there. If you cleave in the base, you obviously don't get the card draw. So it's a good thing to note for anyone playing around Dreaming Tree. It's a very useful way of sequencing it. We're now swinging 4 into 2. Are we going to see yet another pump spell come out of the Ahri? It looks like we are.
He had 2 disciplines. Does he have the 3rd one? It might just be with all that card draw he's had this game. That will be the 3rd one, bringing the Raven Blue up to 5 total might, sufficient enough to get over the 4, unless Annie has perhaps another pump like a cleave number 2. Unless they discard, I can't remember, but
we've definitely seen one discarded. So yeah, it's tricky to see. I mean, I think, like I said, it's been a combination of just Ahri has had all the answers to all the questions that Annie's asked this game. I think that's one thing we've noticed, and I think that will, with only 4 runes up, that's probably going to be all she wrote. I don't know if there's much that the Annie player can do here. Just brings out the Annie. We'll take back, I'm guessing. Well, Falling Star doesn't even really help because it's it's not at action speed, so I don't even know what you bring back. But yeah, there is the concession for game 1.
There we go, and masterclass from the Ahri player showing us why he was our weekly champion last week. Basically, these battlefields just cancel each other out, so both these players playing effectively with no battlefields, right? One's a plus, well, no, I guess. Yeah. No, effectively, because you still got to get to 8, right? So they cancel each other out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the same. You're just playing a game to 8, but you both start on 1 instead of 0. But it doesn't really make a difference. But this is a good turn. Traveling Merchant, very strong opener. Is this gonna be a Yordle? It is indeed. So two good opening moves. But yeah, I think it's very crucial for Annie to get back into this. She needed a 2-drop on turn 1. She gets it. We can start the recycling process already now with the Merchant to see what we want to get rid of. Interesting, she gets with Darius again, so she's clearly quite happy. Maybe there's a second one in hand, but she clearly seems quite happy just to move this or just to get rid of these Dariuses. Doesn't seem overly attached to them, and that's a good move. The sneaky deckhand, so we score the 2 points turn 2. Really useful. And then it looks like Ahri's just going to have to pick which one she wants to go for out of these 2 options, because even though the Ahri deck has a lot of buff spells in green and blue, there's not a lot of kill spells. So without units to actually engage in combat, there's not a lot they can do to affect another battlefield. So should be okay here.
Now I want to say fantastic turn for this Ahri player, not Ahri, this Annie player, making full use of every single rune they had. The Traveling Merchant conquering the sneaky deckhand, and then on top of it getting that stacked deck, and now bringing 2 back. That's what Annie does. You don't have to worry too much about tapping out every single turn. Getting those 2 back is so essential. Now you have things like we mentioned before, a flight or flight, just in case they want to commit to a buff pump on that Yordle to try to get over the 2 might of both of these units. You kind of just react with sending it back, but goes for the Sprite Mother. So now you got to think about the 3 might, goes into the arena's greatest. What is the reaction from Tera? Do they have something, and do they want to commit it on such a temporary unit like this token here?
I was wondering if we might see a flash here. There we go. That's a great use of the flash. So I noticed this in seeing some other Annie's play. This is the classic combo. You take both battlefields, you flash both units back, and you've still got some units to play with next turn as well, which is really good. So I think that's what I tried to touch on at the start of the thing. You just mentioned it there as well, how good that Annie Legend ability is at being able to use all your runes, especially in the early game, and then not having to worry and still getting those 2 back because they run cards like Ride the Wind, Flash, Vital Flight. So a lot of 2 might, 2 power spells to be able to just have those reaction speeds the following turn. But we will see it here. Ahri takes both, so she goes up to 3 herself, and then it'll be a matter of can Annie come back and take over these battlefields, because like you said, it feels very bad to burn any sort of removal on the Sprite. With it being a temporary unit, you don't really want to be wasting cards doing that. But interesting, the Gust. I like this play because the temporary unit, the Sprite can't go to your hand, so instead it just kills it instead. So instead of being a return to hand, it's actually a kill spell, which is pretty good. So, and then we'll see Darius come in for 7 here. So we were right, when discarded the Darius, they did have a second one ready to go. So no surprises there.
Not too bad. Annie off to the races, already up to 4 points. These guys are moving fast. Of course, we mentioned these things are canceled out, so you don't have to go all the way to 9, basically just 8. So make that 5 total points for Annie, just 3 more points away. Annie might be able to get under this Ahri, because Ahri's nowhere near close to get things off like a Time Warp, especially the setup required to get an effective Time Warp / Watcher combo that we saw time and time again from PewQ before. So this is not too bad a position that Annie's finding herself in. Now, throwing it back to this Ahri player, what do they want to do? Of course, they have that Sprite Mother. Send it into Arena's Greatest. You do have that Conquer potential, but you always have to think about, they already played 1 Gus. Do they have another one? And if they do, you're not too mad about that, though. Getting a Sprite Mother back in your hands, so this might not be too bad as well for Ahri. So a couple interesting decisions here. I'm thinking, no, you can't even play a tasty Faithfolk so far right now. Not
yeah, 6 is a really awkward number for the Ahri, it must be said. I think, like you say, if they do move into Arena's Greatest, I think they probably just get the deckhand. I don't think Ahri would burn much to save it. Like I say, you definitely wouldn't want to gust it, because then it would just come back down with a temporary Sprite, which would be huge problematic. I think it'd be very interesting to see here. Yeah, 6 is an awkward number. Obviously, on 8, you've got a lot of options, because you can accelerate a Faithfolk, you can accelerate a Watcher, which are obviously 2 of the strongest cards in the Ahri deck. But when it gets to this stage, there's not a lot they can answer with. But I think if you can keep the Darius alive, that's really good. They'd go to 6. Obviously, we are playing for 9, but I think they'd be quite happy just to pull that Darius back. And then you can even pull it back, play your second card, it will ready itself, and then you could go back into Arena's Greatest. So really good card if you can keep Darius alive, just keep him moving around and readying himself and giving himself +2 might as well. But we will see an answer here.
Flash.
Okay, nice.
The second
Keeps
flash.
everything alive.
Yeah, making full use of it, just saving and prioritize the safety of their unit. Enable, like you said, able to get that Darius combo off one more time, one more turn to follow up, but it does come at the cost. Ahri does go up to 4 herself now. Does she have anything to capitalize on the follow-up? Another Sprite Mother to just conquer Aspirant Climbs could be nice, but you're looking at not defending too well. I mean, you could defend with at least 2 more runes, because Sprite Mother's a 4 energy, so that's going to be 4. Recycle a mine. It will be that secondary Sprite Mother as predicted. So it's thinking about conquering the climb, and it does. And the Raven Moon going to be played in the back line. But now, as we said before, this Darius poised to take whichever battlefield he really wants. 7 might is a little bit too crazy now that Ahri's completely tapped out, and this is looking pretty good. 2 2-might units, a total of 4, send them in one direction, and
nice.
make it worse. The falling stars coming in, clearing both of the baseline units on Ahri's battlefield, or on Ahri's base, and that was really strong. Ahri's kind of pulling ahead here.
Yes, Annie's this is what you want if you're the Annie player. This is how you want your deck to run. It's very, very good. He'll trade the Kaiser in here. He's quite happy. Ahri is rarely, you've got an opportunity where she's fully tapped, which you have to take advantage of. So it's quite the Annie player is quite happy just to trade 3 into 3 here, and then we'll take it with, I would assume, the deck hangs. It'd be a free draw, because if you can't discard, you still get to draw. So I would imagine that's the move we see, and then the Darius will take Aspirant's Climb. We'll go to 7. And it looks like we could be poised to push here for a game 3, because when these aggro decks get rolling, it's very hard to come back.
We saw the power of Annie on the play. Imagine if that wasn't an Aspirant Climb, the game would be over right now, right? Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, you're still 2 points. You're still 1 point away, right?
Yeah, it works based the same principle. Yeah, we're still 2 points away because they both added the extra point at the start of the game, so we are playing for 9.
Oh, look at the hand ollie!
Look at that! Oh, double watcher, double time warp. That is not what you want to see.
End game hand, 2 time warps, 2 watchers, probably putting those back at the bottom of the deck, trying to draw those early game creatures. We saw him so many times hit those Raven Blooms. Does he have another one? It goes with the Poro. Basically the same, just a little bit less good.
Yeah, no, it's not. I think, like you say, I think it's nothing to juggle with Riftbound, because unlike other games where it's a reshuffle, given it's just a straight recycle, you're not seeing those options till late, probably ever, if you put them to the bottom of your deck. So some decks that run like, the one-off Mundos, for example, they might be forced to keep it in the early game when they don't really want it, but because they know they'll need it late game, and if they recycle it at the start, the odds are you're never going to see that come back. So it's an interesting dynamic when it comes to the mulliganing in this game, but good start from both players here. 2 Poros. Everyone loves a Poro, so right. Very nice. I assume Annie. Does you have a reaction here to this? Are we going to see ride the wind? There we go.
Okay.
I really like this move. I think, like you say, it gets you 2 points, and also, if we think when you look at the Grove of the God Willow, this will also score the extra card draw as well. So not only will we score 1. And then assuming we hold and we start the next turn with the Poro, we will then get to draw an extra card as well. So really nice move there with the Ride the Wind.
I agree. Very nice indeed. Like you said, you're going to be drawing 2 on the turn. Hopefully, does trigger the Grove. Yep. So draws an additional card per turn, gaining 1 point as well. So very strong start for Annie. Didn't hit any purple runes off the top of their channel phase, though. So could be a little tricky for things like they've been doing before. That Ride the Wind costs 1 purple power, so has to be considerate of that as well. Most likely thinking about something like just that simple Kaiser champion just to play it out, or could develop something else as well. So we'll see shortly what Annie has in mind. Goes for all, I was gonna say 4, but taking it back so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at the Ahri board, this does seem like a pretty good Falling Star opportunity, but you do risk that if there is a pump spell. We've seen how that's been punished in game 1 especially. You're also recycling 2. I think you see the difference here when you're looking at an Annie deck compared to a Kaiser deck, how big a cost Falling Star actually is if you're paying the full cost. I think the one thing we take for granted with Kaiser and why it's so powerful is being able to play Falling Star for the 1 power cost is a big, big difference. And yeah, you're spot on there with the prediction. We're just going to play the Kaiser to base, set up for a move next turn, potentially.
That's right. Does raise the 2 that Annie's known for. Goes back to Ahri. This Poro only gets the +1 on defense with their shield, so isn't able to take care of the Grove too effectively. Can trade, but what else can they do? There's a little early for Watcher turns. You do have things like Sprite Mother we've seen before, but an early discipline onto the Poro, that's one way to get the job done, and you're not too worried. What 2? Maybe a Hextech Ray. We didn't see any true spells except Falling Stars from Annie, right? Maybe there was a Hex Ray in the sideboard, but we didn't see those simple like Void Seekers or Hex Rays. But speak of the devil, I think that, oh no, a stacked deck just to maybe draw into one if they didn't have it already.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think, I don't see a lot of Annie lists with Hextech Ray. Obviously, Falling Star is not reactionary, but I think The only drawback of the Annie ability is when you ready 2 runes, you don't have access to that Void Seeker, because I think you're spot on. If they had Void Seeker there, I'm sure we would have seen it if they had 3 runes available, just to be able to take control and hold that battlefield. But it looks like we could get on with both battlefields here, which is very awkward. Ooh, a nice Gust, but
I think on itself, yeah, just to get it back,
Poro.
since the Poro, Ahri's Poro got out of the range of the Gust, right, with the 4 mana.
Yes, exactly. But interesting they prioritize the Poro quite highly there, because I think Gust, yeah, that's an interesting play, but yeah, certainly a cool one. And we pass it over, but we can see Ahri sat there, 5 cards in hand, 4 runes up. It's a scary situation. I think this is what we see. It just doesn't. There's always a gamble with aggro decks in any game. If you lose a bit of tempo early, it can be tricky to get that tempo back. But let's see if they have something like a Darius plus a Cleave would be a big turn here. If you could swing for 7 at both battlefields, that would be a big turn. But let's see what they have to work with.
Yeah, I like that play, because Ahri for sure has some spells in mind. Things like we've seen time and time again, that on guard most likely, but taking the chance, most likely thinking that this Annie player has a Cleave just in case, goes ahead and plays out the Cleave, bringing that up to total of 6 since you minus the 1 from the Ahri. And what would that take now? It would take a total of
3. So yeah, you're looking at 2 cards in response for the Ahri player here. It would need to be an on guard and a discipline, or double on guard, for example. And I think you're normally quite safe if you've got 2 pump spells, you've got 2 pump spells. There's not a lot you can do about it, unfortunately. But let's see if they have the answers. I'm sure they've got at least one, but be interested if they have that second one or not. But you saw there, Annie sequenced that perfectly, moved in first, then played Cleave, because as the attacker, you have priority to begin with, and was very sensible not to try and bait it at all by passing it over, because the Ahri could just accept the trade. But there's the first pump spell. So this Poro is now going to be sitting at 5, because +1 for the shield, and then +2 for the discipline that's going to come in, and then we'll see if they have another answer on top. You got to remember that the Ahri player is drawing 2 cards for this as well, with it being Dreaming Tree. So let's see if they can find a response in either of those 2 cards.
And those are that did draw those 2 cards. I didn't see any player draw a single card though. They definitely got one draw off the Cleave. It looks like they're drawing it now. So
there we go. Yeah.
Okay, normally you would draw before it goes, but that's perfectly fine. Nothing really got out of order. 6 to the 5. Do they have a secondary pump spell like the on guard we mentioned? This feels like a huge moment
in the game. The Ahri player will be praying he gets away with it here, but no, we see the on guard come down, and that will take the Kai's play up to 7. Does the Annie have a response? Another Cleave perhaps, or something along those lines to potentially save it here? If not, this could be a very difficult position for the Annie player to come back from if there's no answer to this.
Yeah, super uphill climb if he doesn't, but decides, ride the win indeed. Where do you want to send it? Do you send it to the other battlefield? Now that Poro is simply just at 3 total might, you do have to -1, but 5 is definitely more than 3, so you should be able to conquer the Grove, and it's ready. So if you want to go ahead and retreat it back to base, it is ready to do so. But is there a third, Ollie? A third pump spell? We saw Discipline.
I think if we see a third on guard here, as the Addy player, you might just start quietly crying to yourself if you see another one.
Oh no! Okay.
Okay. We can take a deep breath, but yeah, it's always scary. I think the 1-cost spells are just so dangerous in this game. When you see them have like 4 or 5 runes, it can be deadly. But see, that's nice. Draw a card from the Kaiser effect. So yeah, we're okay now. They're gonna have to develop some board next turn. We get to bring our Poro back out, which is very good. I think in terms of where you play it, I think it's kind of optional, really. I quite like the idea of playing it on Grove of the God Willows, because even if they can accelerate something, they could potentially play Watcher next turn. And I think you don't mind the Poro if they just play a Watcher to take out a Poro. But it also means they can't charm the Poro if they wanted to, because they'd have to pay the extra deflect cost, which they don't really want to do. So I quite like the idea of putting the Poro into God's Willow here. You can see they're really having a deep think about it. And then Kaiser will pop back down to 4. Ready to 2 runes and pass it back over.
Okay, so if they did have a Void Seeker this time around, they are able to use it, but Poro does get the point for the hole, bring the Ahri player up to 4 totals. I believe 4, right? Did I miss any?
Yeah, I've got it as 4.
Okay,
4,
perfect.
And then Annie is currently on 3 at the moment.
So we'll see. This is right around the range. Ahri makes her optimal plays, or ideal plays, I should say. Enough for things like Watcher, but you don't really have too much of a follow-up. You do have that base 7 might unit going in with Accelerate. Should be more than enough to take down the Poro and the Kaiser if you choose to do so, but you have to think about what is those 3 runes that Annie's holding up able to get done, because you could fight or flight any unit, but it looks like it's just going to be 5 total runes. 5? Recycle what? Oh, the champion. Okay.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, in the main deck, I don't think there's any 5 cost, but interesting. Plays that, pulls it back. Okay, setting up for some sort of a bigger turn next turn. Then we'll see here. Plays a student for 2 and a Poro. Wow, so they're clearly setting up for a big assault next turn. Getting ready to move in. Wow,
this is risky though, isn't though? As you mentioned before, we rarely see Ahri completely tapped out. It smells to me that Ahri ran out of combat tricks. The retreat, discipline, and on guard have all been used. So just trying to maximize their turn, use every single rune available to them, and just spam out the board. But Annie, they like to see that. I mean, they're not going to like it too much on this next turn, but for the moment, if they're able to get something off with Accelerate like the Darius we said, at least that's going to be able to conquer 1 more point, bringing it up to 5. But then things start getting a bit complicated. You know, the more I think about it, I like this play from Ahri, because their follow-up turn, it almost seems to me you're going to have Time Warp online. If you can take over one of these battlefields with that Ahri champion, go with Time Warp. That's going to be 6 up to 7, and then maybe on the follow-up Time Warp play you do Watcher and you could win with that. That might be what he's kind of thinking about right now.
I think there's PewQ. We know he's very experienced with this deck. There'll be no coincidence that he'll be sat there with he's gonna have 10 runes this turn. We see it's passed over to him now. Interesting decision to move the Poro and play the Merchant to base. I would have thought, given maybe you're not as familiar with the Ahri matchup as you'd like to be, but if they can take both battlefields here and then simply play Time Warp, that is the game, because we conquer for 2, go to 6. Time Warp takes you to 8, and then that's game over. But it doesn't look like, I think the Darius is enough might that it's going to be difficult for the Ahri to do this without using a spell or some description, because you've only got 10, so you can't Time Warp and play anything else. You have to do something. You'd have to do some trading first. So it'll be interesting to see how we go in here. I think the Poros, as you see here, the Ahri deck is fundamentally built to hold, so it does struggle sometimes to have those big assaults. There isn't many offensive tricks in terms of the Poros have shield. The Ahri legend ability only helps when defending, so it will be interesting to see if they can make a move here and go in and take it down.
Tricky turn indeed, because you don't even have access to simple things like a Stupefy for a single rune. As you mentioned, you need to use every single one of your current runes, all 10 of them, to get something off like a Time Warp. I mean, you could prematurely Time Warp now and try to set things up the next turn, but you're not going to be able to fully maximize that +1 point with the Ahri ability, or the Ahri champion ability. So trying to sequence it out. Going to be sending both Poros over to the Kaiser. Even trade as it stands, unless Annie has something to say about that. What does she have in mind? Has 2 of those runes available at the ready. We saw things like Flight before. They do have simple Gust available to them.
I think that would be the key, because you certainly don't want to flash your units back this turn, because that will probably lose you the game. So I would assume we will be looking for a Fight or Flight would be the only response I can think with the 2 runes up. I think they don't have, like I said, it's awkward again not leaving 3, so you don't have a response. We are seeing them tap 2 and recycle a purple. Is this going to be right? The Wind. Interesting.
Okay.
Curious
Trying to make it so much harder for her to conquer the Dreaming Tree, so I can respect this play. Bringing it over to the Darius battlefield, bringing that Dreaming Tree up to a defending 9 total might. So how is Ahri, because the game plan was to use these 2 Poros to trade with the Kaiser and then send the Ahri champion into that grove, but it looks like it didn't go exactly the same way they were thinking about. Now having to kind of pivot on the spot. What can they do now? Because this Dreaming Tree sees a little out of range, but still gets the Ahri. That was priority number 1. Bring that Ahri onto the grove. Do you Time Warp here? It seems like it. That's 1, that's 3, that's 4 total recycled. Is going to be able to go to 6, 7.
Well, with the Ahri ability, it was 7. And then are we going to see 8 runes? Watcher, I think, can get this done here, potentially, because it would be, yeah, it'd be 5, it'd be 3 total might on the Dreaming Tree, which would be easily enough for the Watcher to take down. So are we about to see the combo finish here from the Ahri player?
Yeah, they have enough runes to do so, and time again, we saw it versus your game in the finals. Did he do it just one time? I know he did it at least once. Perhaps he did it on that game too as well.
Certainly saw it a couple times. I think I did it once back to him because I sideboarded in Time Warp in our first series.
Right.
But yeah, it's a deadly combo. I think starting your turn, even if you can sometimes use it in situations where you don't even think it's necessarily that good, but it can really make a big difference. But interesting, we see, so there's no Watcher, so we're safe. We go with the Find Your Center. And then let's see what the Annie player is going to do with this. We have to tap 1, play another Find Your Center. Okay, we're just ramping.
Yeah, not too bad. So just trying to see a couple more cards. Set up the next turn because Annie can't win. Actually, they can't. No, they can't because they go up to 6 next turn. So they can't win their immediate next turn.
7.
So Ahri has some wiggle room, a little bit of breathing room, just trying to prepare and have enough rooms for maybe a second Time Warp if needed. But if this Ahri and the 2 Poros on the Grove are able to hold it down, that's going to be game already. So what do they have? They're going to have to try to, Annie is going to have to maybe try to retreat the Darius, play 2 cards, and then send everything over. That could be enough. But is she trying to do it right now? Ravenbloom going up to 7. Do you want to get rid of the Darius at this moment? Is that worthwhile though? I don't think so. What is Ahri up to? This is an interesting play.
Yes, I think also what's curious, if he'd moved first and then played Discipline, he would have drawn an extra card for Dreaming Tree. So if he is going to go into Dreaming Tree, I believe that's a slight misplay, and he is. But I think the only way you lose the game is to the Darius, because what the Darius can do is he can retreat. Then when you play your second card, obviously Darius readies himself. So I think that is a sensible play in the sense that it gets rid of your biggest threat, and you're just going for the simple hold. And because the Kaiser can't move back and go forwards as well, whereas a Darius could. So I quite like the idea of that play. I just would have sequenced it slightly differently and put the student there first, and then play Discipline to draw the extra card with the Dreaming Tree is probably the only thing I could think. Now this is interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I was just going to say perhaps they did that discipline play because they had another one, but with the way they're playing, they did not. So retreating everything back, it seems to me they have another Time Warp and just want to prioritize getting onto one single battlefield, and then Time Warp away is 4, 6, 8, 10 total might, enough to take down one of these battlefields. I believe the answer might just be yes. Annie going up to 7, can't get up to 8 this very turn like we said before. So does Ahri have that second Time Warp in hand? Because if they do, it might be GG, but things are getting pretty close. 7 to 7 points. Both of these guys pretty much at checkmate, but one base is looking a little bit different than the other ones. I'm leaning towards Ahri on this game because all she has to do, at least the way she's playing, it seems to me that they do have that extra Time Warp in hand. If they're able to just take down one of these battlefields, that's all they really need to get up to that 8 point through a hold. So not too crazy to believe they have another one in hand.
Yeah, I think I agree with that sentiment. I think the thing to think about, if you try and hold that battlefield with the Ahri and the 2 Poros, and they do have the Vi Ride the Wind combo, you lose all of your tempo in sort of one fell swoop. We will see the Annie come back. Very interested to see what they take from this. I would be curious.
Yeah, when you play me Return a Spell, and it is the Ride the Wind. Yep.
Interesting. So, yeah, this just doesn't look like a lot of might to hold with. I mean, we've got 7 over there. I mean, we're dead in the waters to Watcher. That's for certain. And then we're in a lot of trouble. Because if it's Time Warp, you can just move in with the Ahri or the 2 Poros, trade into Kaiser, then go in again, another. So it seems like there's a lot of answers that PewQ can have here to carry on his run and go to 3-0 on the night.
I couldn't agree more, because you're trying to hold down the Grove, but you're leaving that Dreaming Tree pretty open for this Ahri. So even if you get back 2 more runes, 4 total might, I guess what can that be? That can be, no, forgive me, that's going to be, all right, Flash on offense. Gonna be retreating, so maybe just thinking about holding one single battlefield. I think this is Annie saying, if you have time warp, you have it. If you don't have time warp, I'm gonna force you to take down both of these battlefields in that same turn. So I think this is playing towards all his outs, and I can respect that. But of course, if Ahri, we saw him last week running 3 time warps, sending a single Poro in, any reactions from the Annie spells? It looks like they're talking about it.
He'll draw a card, so you can't go to 8. You can't go to 8, so you draw a card there. And there he's hovering, he's selecting everything it looks like, and that's going to be a Watcher, and that is going to be all she wrote. I think, unfortunately for the Annie player, everything goes down to 1. There's 4 total might, and just moves in with everything, and that will be GG. Wow, what a great series there.